The conference hall buzzed with the nervous energy of 100 different species, each trying to navigate the delicate politics of the first Galactic Trade Summit held on neutral ground. Ambassador Kira of the Velthran Empire sat alone at a table meant for 6, her violet scales catching the overhead lights in a way that made her appear both beautiful and dangerous. No one approached. She had expected this. Her people were warriors, conquerors who had carved out their territory through strength and strategic brilliance. The Velthrans had been at war with half the galaxy at some point in their history, and though peace treaties now held firm, memories ran deep. Other delegates whispered behind their hands, casting glances her way before quickly looking elsewhere. Kira kept her expression neutral, her golden eyes scanning the crowd with practiced indifference. She had been trained since childhood to show no weakness, to project confidence even when isolated. Her father, the Emperor, had personally selected her for this assignment, trusting her to represent their people with dignity and strength. She would not fail him by appearing affected by such obvious social rejection. The human delegation entered through the main doors, and the room's energy shifted slightly. Humans were still relatively new to galactic politics, having only achieved faster-than-light travel 3 generations ago. They were considered naive by some, dangerously unpredictable by others. Most species hadn't quite figured out how to categorize them yet. Marcus Webb, the junior human diplomat, surveyed the room with interest. He was tall by human standards, with dark hair graying at the temples and eyes that seemed to take in everything without judgment. His superior had sent him to mingle while the senior diplomats handled the formal proceedings. He noticed the empty seats immediately. In a room packed with delegates jostling for position and networking opportunities, an entire table sat vacant, except for one striking figure. Marcus recognized the Velthran ambassador from the briefing materials. The reports had described her people as militaristic, honor-bound, and fiercely protective of their reputation. The reports had said nothing about the loneliness he could read in the set of her shoulders. Marcus made his decision in an instant. He wove through the crowd, ignoring the tables where other humans had begun to settle, and walked directly toward Kira's position. He could feel eyes following him, hear the subtle shift in conversation as delegates noticed his trajectory. "Excuse me, Ambassador," Marcus said, stopping beside the empty chair to her right. "Is this seat taken?" Kira looked up, surprised. Her expression flickered through several emotions before settling back into careful neutrality. "It is not. May I join you?" She studied him for a long moment. In her experience, such offers came with hidden agendas, with schemes wrapped in false courtesy. But something in the human's open expression gave her pause. He seemed genuinely interested in simply sitting down. "You may," she said finally. Marcus settled into the chair with a slight smile. "Marcus Webb, assistant to the human diplomatic corps. Though I suspect you already knew that." "Ambassador Kira of the Velthran Empire," she replied formally. "And yes, I made it my business to study all the delegations before arriving." "Smart," Marcus said. He looked around the room, then back at her. "I hope you don't mind me saying, but this seems like the best seat in the house. Good vantage point, not too close to the buffet tables where the Greshok delegation keeps arguing about food preparation, and far enough from the main podium that we can actually have a conversation." Despite herself, Kira felt the corner of her mouth twitch. A tactical analysis. "I chose it for similar reasons." "Great minds," Marcus said easily. He pulled out a small tablet and began scrolling through notes. "I have to admit, I'm supposed to be networking, but most of these conversations feel like verbal chess matches. I'm told your people appreciate directness, so I'll be direct. I saw you sitting alone and thought you might welcome some company." Kira's eyes narrowed slightly. "You are not concerned about the optics?" "Sitting with a Velthran is not a neutral choice." "No, I suppose it isn't," Marcus agreed. But neutrality isn't the same as fairness. Everyone deserves basic courtesy, regardless of their species' history. The simplicity of the statement struck Kira more powerfully than any elaborate diplomatic speech could have. She had prepared herself for manipulation, for strategic conversations designed to extract information or position. She had not prepared for simple human decency. "That is a remarkably idealistic view," she said carefully. "Maybe," Marcus admitted, "but idealism has its place. Besides, I'm genuinely curious about the Velthran perspective on the trade proposals being discussed. Your empire controls several key shipping routes, and I'd like to understand your position better." They began to talk. What started as a discussion of trade routes evolved into a broader conversation about philosophy, history, and the challenges of representing one's people on a galactic stage. Marcus asked questions that showed he had done his research, but he listened more than he spoke, seeming genuinely interested in her answers. Other delegates began to notice. First one, then another, approached the table and asked if they might join. Kira watched with concealed amazement as the dynamic shifted. The human's presence had somehow made her approachable, had broken the invisible barrier that had kept others at a distance. A delegate from the Merchant Coalition sat down, followed by a representative from one of the mining confederacies. Soon their table was full, and the conversations multiplied into a web of productive exchanges. But Marcus remained her primary conversation partner, always bringing the discussion back to include her when others seemed inclined to talk around her. During a lull in the conversations, Kira leaned closer to Marcus. "You have changed the entire dynamic of this gathering for me," she said quietly. "May I ask why you took such a risk?" Marcus considered the question seriously. "On Earth, we have a saying. The only thing necessary for bad situations to persist is for good people to do nothing. You weren't being excluded because of anything you had done, but because of fear and prejudice based on history. That seemed wrong to me. Your superiors may not appreciate your independent action." "They might not," Marcus agreed with a slight grin. "But they sent me here to build bridges, and that's what I'm doing. If they wanted safe and predictable, they should have sent someone else." Kira felt something unfamiliar stirring in her chest. Respect, certainly, but also something warmer, something that felt almost like kinship. "Your people are strange, Marcus Webb. In my culture, we value strength above all else. Yet you have shown me that there are different kinds of strength. The courage to stand against social pressure is its own form of power." "I appreciate that," Marcus said. "And if I may say so, Ambassador, your composure in the face of that social pressure showed tremendous strength as well. A lesser person would have left or made a scene. You simply held your ground with dignity." The summit continued over the next 3 days, and Marcus made a point of sitting with Kira at every meal and break. Other humans from his delegation began joining them, following his lead. The invisible wall that had surrounded the Velthran ambassador crumbled, and she found herself engaged in the kind of productive diplomacy she had hoped for when accepting this assignment. On the final evening, as delegates prepared to depart for their respective worlds, Kira found Marcus on one of the observation decks, overlooking the station's primary landing bay. "I wanted to thank you," she said, approaching to stand beside him. "Before leaving." "No thanks necessary," Marcus replied. "I'm glad we had the chance to talk. I learned a great deal from you." "As did I from you." Kira paused, choosing her words carefully. "When I return home, I will be reporting to my father about the summit. I intend to recommend that we pursue closer ties with humanity, not just for strategic reasons, but because I believe our peoples could learn much from each other." Marcus turned to face her fully, clearly pleased. "That means a great deal, Ambassador. I'll be making similar recommendations to my government." "There is something else," Kira continued. "In Velthran culture, we have a concept called Koresh. It means someone who stands beside you when others will not for gain, but for principle. It is one of the highest honors we can bestow. I name you Koresh, Marcus Webb. Marcus understood the weight of what she was saying, even if he didn't know all the cultural nuances. I'm honored, truly. And for what it's worth, I'd sit next to you again any time, fearsome reputation and all. Kira's laugh was genuine, a sound few outside her family had ever heard. Perhaps fearsome reputations are overrated. Perhaps true strength lies in knowing when to extend a hand instead of a claw. Now you're the one being idealistic, Marcus teased gently. Perhaps your influence is contagious. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the ships come and go. Two representatives of vastly different worlds who had found unexpected common ground. The galaxy was vast and often cold, but moments like these reminded them both that connection was possible, that barriers were meant to be crossed, and that sometimes the greatest diplomatic victory was simply choosing to see the person behind the reputation. When they parted ways, it was with genuine warmth and the promise of future correspondence. And as Kira's ship lifted off toward Velthrin Space S,